In November 2013, Nick, a friend of mine, and me went to Rio de Janeiro, having in our backpacks the most necessary tools: a motor saw, a driller, axes and 2 shovels. After a short stay in the capital of the state, we took the bus to Parachi. Despite the familiarity with the country, its culture, its people, I felt totally alien and motiveless. Things had turned very bad recently, and now I needed a lot of discipline to go on and start the project I had planned.
geht. Nein, schon wieder ab. Yeah, jetzt ist gut. Letzten Tag mit dem Bus gehen. Es ist am Auseinanderbrechen, wie gesagt. Der Boden ist rausgefallen. Jetzt haben wir nochmal einen grossen Transport. Ui! Scheiße. Erst mal in die Armee hoch. Mal schauen, ob so unser Treffen da schafft. 1. Dezember 2013. Und das Auto stinkt schon. Regenwetter.
We could initially live in the cottage of another Swiss expatriate and use his old VW Beetle. So we started up, clearing the first spaces on the sea-dune.
Pionier auf der Aveia. Alles ist noch mehr zugewuchert als vorher. Jeder Mensch sollte in seinem Leben mindestens einen Baum pflanzen, oder? Das nächste hier. Rein. Avocado. Ja. Zum Glück war er schon da mit einigermaßen festem Dach. Es ist winzig, wie ihr seht. Es hat sogar einen Ofen da außen. Und da innen haben wir jetzt alles Material mal gestapelt, außer Motorsägisse. Die haben wir versteckt im Wald.
Having heard for years about the Brazilian forest destruction, we considered every tree as sacrosanct, even when he looked sick. We cleared the necessary area to prevent standing on a snake, built a bamboo shower and installed a simple protection for sleeping.
Und das geht durch, Mann. Jedenfalls hat der Nick jetzt gerade vorher eine Cobra gehabt, eine Schlange. Die Dame da ist gerade am Bad nehmen. Und jetzt ist natürlich der Weg gut zum Reservoir ein bisschen unheimlicher geworden. Ja, vielleicht ist es eine liebe Schlange.
After a week, Nick left to travel a bit. I stayed, alone. It was my initiation, the test whether I really can do it. Being isolated thousands of miles away from your friends, doubts and fears start to get very much stronger than in a familiar environment.
Das ist wieder mal eine der totalen Scheiß-Situationen von meinem Leben. Ich will in die Aveia hochgehen. Es ist Abend, wird gleich dunkel und ein Schiff voll. Und die 20 Minuten, die ich brauche, um dort hochzulaufen, werde ich klotschnass. Trockene Kleider habe ich nicht. Ich hoffe einfach, dass es nicht in mein Zelt hineinregnet, oder besser gesagt in die Flache. Da hocke ich am Strassenrand unter einem Baum und warte und bereue, dass ich nicht in ein Hostel gegangen bin. Verfluchte Scheissdreck. In der Aveia endlich angekommen. Nicht ganz so verregnet wie gedacht. Aber am Weihnachten ist es. Habe ich mich jetzt für die Nacht vorbereitet und gehe jetzt noch etwas kochen. Jetzt habe ich mal das Zelt verstärkt, weil heute Abend sollte es meine Zuflucht sein, die Hängematte aufgehängt. Schicken, immer an meiner Seite, die Stirnlampe schon auf, sonst barfuß, ist vielleicht ein bisschen waghalsig. Aber Fürtaufe ist Fürtaufe. Und das erste Mal kochen hier in der Aveia. Ich allein, Reis und Bohnen, es regnet, scheiß Wetter. Es geht nicht gut, ich habe lange gebraucht, bis ich das Feuer angegangen habe. Aber zum Glück kann ich ja das schon. Es ist Abend geworden und es regnet draussen. Und der einzige Place to be ist die Hängematte. Unten zum Glück wetterfeste Planen. Allein und die erste Nacht in der Avea. In meiner Hängematte, die ich hoffentlich sicher aufgehängt habe. Geschützt vor dem Regen, geschützt vor Schlangen und Viecher. Es ist eine imposante Geräuschkulisse. Es ist unheimlich.
The loneliness was of short time. Another friend arrived. With him I knew I could start to build up.
Wir haben vor, ein Haus zu bauen, die nächsten 3 Tage. Ein Haus in 9 Tagen. Das wird Schlagzeilen machen.
Our means were very basic. We had our few tools and the basic knowledge of rationality.
Da kommt unser Haus hin, wir haben schon am Boden ein bisschen eingezeichnet. Und jetzt, Hügli?
Und jetzt kannst du Motorsacke holen.
Palmen fällen, was eigentlich streng verboten wäre. Wo wir gefällt haben, hier oben im Gebüsch, wo da runtergefallen ist.
We worked on the wooden structure for a little house. For this we had to cut some trees, small ones. Anyhow, we needed some space for the construction.
Darum sind wir jetzt schnell unter das Dach geflohen, während draussen hoffentlich unsere Eckpfosten vom neuen Haus weiter verkohlen.
A neighbor warned us of the low quality of the wood that would rot away soon. So we charged the lower parts of the trunks, as it has been done since ages, whenever such huts had been built.
Und das Haus aufgestellt, 3 Hauptelemente und wie man sieht, es ist ziemlich hoch. Unsere Konstruktionsschritte voran, aber dauern. Weil alle Bäume müssen wir zuerst fällen, entrinden und genauestens zuschneiden.
An often heard question is, are you qualified for this? We are brought up questioning ourselves and feeling inadequate.
Ist so.
Der Robi hat sogar Unterlagsschieber benutzt, das ist ein super Penal.
At the latest, since having built my own house without knowledge and just simple means, I know we can do everything.
Die 3 Affen hocken hier auf dem Bänkchen nach getaner Arbeit und warten auf den Omnibus.
We lived a simple life up there, slept in hammocks, washed in the little river, fertilized the banana trees, and shared the open house with a cock and some chickens. Being up to 4 people, we started to prepare the soil for a garden and built some walls in the house out of bamboo and clay. This traditional material has nowadays nearly totally disappeared in Brazil and given space to bricks, so providing more stability. Bricks heat very much up in the Brazilian sun, whereas clay doesn't. It's free and creates a beautiful natural atmosphere.
Kleben über eine Kuppel.
Sebastian sowed some seeds in the plot which would become a vegetable garden. Nothing so survived because of the heat and the hard, unfertile soil.
Der Himmel kündigt sich wieder gnadenlos wolkenfrei an, das könnte andere freuen. Da oben bedeutet es Trockenheit, heisst Wasser schleppen.
E ele subiu aquele morrão, aquele meio daquelas pedras, segurou ele no mato lá e foi subir, só com o facão. Falei, cuidado, tem uma criada em cima, hein? É a bichona que eu faço ele costa, também não meti o pau, né? Meu pedaço não bateu, porque se não matasse, se eu fosse tentar matar, ele matasse, ele mordia. Aí ia até chegar no hospital, morria. Então eu falei, deixa o bicho aí, que o bicho aí do mato mesmo, vai pra lá, pode ir.
A cobra?
É, grande. Pega o sul desse cargo aí. O Toi falou pra mim, eu falei, expliquei, ela tem um tipo de um 8 nas costas, entendeu? Os caras querem ali se bater com o penado, ela pega no pescoço da pessoa.
Nossa.
É com sul 8. E tá 8 e ele fala tapete. Fala tapete porque ela faz que nem a nágia. Ela faz assim um chapéu. Deixa ela pra lá. Eu vim embora, ela foi pra lá, pro canto dela e eu vim embora.
Of course, our neighbors warned us from the wild animals. Snake stories were especially popular. It would last more than 1 year until I would take them for serious.
Bananenernte. Total unprofessionell, ein Profi würde 2 Leute machen. Und wie viel machst du als Halbprofi?
My friends returned to Switzerland quite exhausted, while I, after some time, set out in search for my children in Salvador.
Okay, jetzt bin ich definitiv krank. Wahrscheinlich wegen meiner Verbrennungen, wo ich die Ursache gar nicht weiss. Da ein riesiges Blatt drin. Das ist eine Stelle, grauenhaft. Andere Blatt auf der anderen Seite. Und jetzt ich nicht mal mehr Wasser geben, obwohl ich eigentlich müsste. Es war den ganzen Tag süchtig heiß. Ich habe mich gezogen, ist klar. Ja, jetzt habe ich Zähne geputzt. Immerhin Disziplin gehabt zum Zähneputzen. Und jetzt, Gott, was ist
Ninguém sabe a mágoa que trago no peito, quem me vê sorrir desse jeito nem sequer sabe a minha solidão. É que meu samba me ajuda na vida, minha dor vai passando esquecida. Vou vivendo essa vida do jeito que ela me levar. Ninguém sabe a mágoa que trago no peito, quem me vê sorrir desse jeito nem sequer sabe a minha solidão. É que meu samba me ajuda na vida, minha dor vai passando esquecida. Vou vivendo essa vida do jeito que ela me levar. Vamos falar de mulher, da morena e dinheiro, do batuque, do surdo e até do pandeiro. Mas não fale da vida que você não sabe o que eu já passei. Moço, aumente esse samba que o verso não para. Batuque mais forte, a tristeza se cala. E eu levo essa vida do jeito que ela me levar. Ninguém sabe a mágoa que trago no peito. Quem me vê sorrir desse jeito nem sequer sabe a minha solidão. É que meu samba me ajuda na vida, minha dor vai passando esquecida. Vou vivendo essa vida do jeito que ela me levar. Vamos falar de mulher, amor e dinheiro, do batuque do sul e até do pandeiro. Mas não fale da vida que você não sabe que eu já passei. Moço, aumente esse samba que o verso não para. Batuque mais forte, a tristeza se cala. E eu levo essa vida do jeito que ela me levar.
Some of you, perhaps myself, will not live to see the sun set over these mountains today. The greatest honor a man can ever achieve is to live with great courage.
Was ich versuche, ist einen Schlauch, der da schon seit Jahrzehnten liegt, freizuhacken, dass ich ihn brauchen kann. So, jetzt habe ich das Rohr aus dem Wald rausgeschlagen und jetzt brauche ich es für Wasseranschluss. Mit alten Gummipneu abdichtet und jetzt habe ich richtigen Druck da drauf. Da habe ich den ersten Hahn und das Wasser schiesst hinten raus. Wow. Juhu.
The ones who have experienced life in nature know that building comfort zones is essential for any further development. Take for example the water. Without running tap water, you will use a lot of time for very basic acts.
Vom Morgen früh bis am Abend spät Wasser geben, heute zweimal. Jetzt habe ich endlich den Schlauch mit einem guten Druck. Wie man das also riecht. Das ist natürlich viel einfacher, jetzt kann ich richtig sprühen.
Day by day you invest hours for drinking, washing or watering plants. So simplicity may be attractive for city people. It is quite tiring for the ones who have to live under such circumstances.
Pobre tolinho a cantar pelo caminho, de olhos pregados no chão. Lá vai o pobre tolinho a cantar pelo caminho, de olhos pregados no chão. Como quem reza e procura nas sombras da noite escura uma perdida ilusão. Como quem reza e procura nas sombras da noite escura, uma perdida ilusão.
Es ist mir gut gelungen, ohne anzumessen, einfach so von Augen. Wunderschönes Holz, gerade Schnitt. Ich bin wirklich stolz. Man glaubt es kaum, mit einem gebügten Stamm so gerade die Bretter anzubringen. Ja. Einfach kein Skimäßig eine gerade Linie machen. Jetzt trocknen lassen.
Por isso é que canta e chora. Da noite faz o seu dia, no canto tem a mal fizeu em negar o amor. Foi por mim que enlouqueceu, foi por mim que mal fizeu em negar o amor. Que o pobre louco procura nas sombras da noite escura, na sua tão negra dor. Que o pobre louco procura nas sombras da noite escura, na sua tão negra dor.
Alles Holz da, alles Holz selber.
There were not many reasons for me to go to Brazil, and my knowledge about the country was small. A chain of lucky incidents made my trip there smooth and exciting and gave me the feeling of walking a prepared path.
Sprung ins kalte Wasser! Der kommt plötzlich und stark.
It was my spiritual quest that brought me to Brazil. Somewhere it was indicated to me that I could visit a certain spiritual healer in Brazil, João de Deus, through whom several spirits act, speak and heal. I had many questions about my life and was eager to hear something about its purpose. But I got no information at all from the spirits. Healthy as I was, there was nothing to be healed, so I went on discovering Brazil, still wondering why I was brought to this country. On the following trips, however, things would not continue so easily. But I was infected, yes. One by one, my illusions had to give way to clearer insights into the Brazilian society. And I got more involved than I had ever been in Switzerland.
Du bist der Zweite, der drinnen hockt, aber der Erste, der schaukelt.
Somewhere on my way, I found myself having 2 little kids with a Brazilian woman. That we would not end up as a family was obvious. Still, I wanted to be close to my kids, at least during 4 or even 6 months a year. Now, I'm not the kind of guy who likes to hang around, focusing on problems which are omnipresent in Brazil. I would need a mission, a job, something to do. I found my challenge in trying to buy a piece of land as a foreigner, a thing that other people warned me from or described as very long process, costly or full of traps. With luck and much research about rules and regulations, I made it.
Fala uma coisa boa. Fala. Ei.
My choice fell on a piece of land that attracted me mainly, I confess, by its size. 13 hectares of land I could never afford in Switzerland, cash, without any commitment. These advantages, though, were obvious. It's all on a slope, quite a distance away from town, just reachable through a steep mud road, and in a region where people are not too familiar with gringos, except by knowing that they're rich. The land was overgrown with forest, so even with my lay eye, I found the trees suspiciously thin. Most of the disadvantages turned later out to be really good conditions. The first to recognize was the slope shape, which results in the existence of 2 water sources with a constant flow, even in periods of drought. I had bought the land with not much more intention than to pass my time doing gardening and some creative things while staying close to my kids. Despite having studied biology and was working on an organic farm, I had little knowledge about the tropics, its soil, its vegetation and its possible agriculture. Those things had yet to come to me, one by one. Shortly after buying the land, I went back to Switzerland for working, leaving my kids with their mother, who increasingly threatened me with cutting my contact with them. In Switzerland, I started to think about the best use of the land. My unexpected access to Brazilian ground and nature made me feel enthusiastic and responsible at the same time. Organic crop growing, accompanied by natural house building, art and spirituality, should be unified in a project which duty was also the protection of the forest and its biodiversity. I called the project Agradeço, of which Agra stands for agronomy, D for biodiversity, and Eso or Eco for ecology, and in the meantime means I thank in Portuguese. Before returning to Brazil, I got the unfortunate news that my kids had been moved by the mother to 2,000 kilometers away Salvador da Bahia. With that act, the reason behind me buying the land has been pulverized, and my motivation to proceed was on the verge of disappearing.
Und morgen geht der schwere Schritt auf Parachi, schicksalhafter Schritt. Es ist grün, komm rein.
Without support, I would hardly have made it. When Nick and I made up our way to start the project in Parachi.
Jetzt ist es voll am Abendregnen. Hat schon den ganzen Tag angekündigt. Mit grauem Himmel und jetzt lässt es voll runter mit Wind. Das heisst, der Regen kommt auch ins Haus. Das heisst, ganz so gemütlich ist es natürlich jetzt nicht mehr. Ein riesender Bach. Nach ein paar Stunden Regen. So etwas haben wir da noch nie gesehen. Ich hoffe, Mauer überlebt. Das Bambusdusche immerhin steht noch. Scheiße, mein Wasser, das ich nach tagelanger Arbeit endlich verpflanzen ansetzen, ist abgestellt. Irgendwo verstopft von der Leitung gerissen. Da, wo ich gerade noch das Rohr verleiht habe und mit Sand ausgefüllt, das ist jetzt ein kleiner, riesender Bach. Mal schauen, was zum Mond von übrig bleibt. Verdammt Scheißwetter, leck. Der Regen kommt rein, Dachhänger ungenügend futsch. Windet wie verrückt. Alles im unteren Stock wird nass. Scheiße, oder? Wenn du da nicht gut improvisieren bist, bist du auch verloren. Scheiße. Das Dach lädt auch ein bisschen an. An Stelle tropft es rein, das ist ein bisschen Scheiß. Hör auf. Keine moderne Unterhaltungsmedien, sprich Gitarre spielen. Fahrgerecht ins Haus hineingeregnet, alles nass, aber da am Feuer, mit einem guten Essen, mit einem guten Buch, alltags überleben.
When I had bought the land, I was not really aware of the ecological problems of Brazil. I could roughly differentiate forest from savanna or desert. On my piece of land there were trees, so it seemed okay. Working here I found impenetrable fields of climbing plants that overgrew thin and thick trees. It wasn't the forest I had seen in the Jungle Book. I spent a lot of time weeding it, and I got to the conclusion that it was actually scar tissue of hardly healed wounds. Soon I would learn about its origins. Having arrived in Salvador, I finally found my kids in a condominium in a quite bad neighborhood. The mother wasn't pleased about me showing up. She wanted me to be thrown out by the guards after me insisting on my right of just going for a walk with my son. Further visits were therefore not possible because the guards wouldn't let me in again. The situation was horrible enough, yet opened new doors. While being stuck in Salvador, the possibility arose to do a course in agrofloristry some hours away from Salvador, led by Ernst Götsch, the agrofloristry guru whose name is widely known within the Brazilian eco-scene. In 1 week time, my eyes were opened to the problems of the Brazilian forest.
E depois outro motivo, mostrar que uma floresta não é uma coisa para não se tocar, senão é ser vivo e quando é em crise, então vamos fazer clareira.
Ernst, of Swiss origin, has lived in Bahia for over 20 years, where he produces high-quality cacao in an area which had been abandoned after the total exploitation of the soil. Besides, he produces a variety of plants, food crops, but also precious woods. He developed his own approach of tropical agriculture after having learned from Red Indians in Central America.
Eu sei que ela está criticada, ou seja, acham que é exótica. Eu sou exótico também. E nós todos somos exóticos. E aqueles que xingam dos exóticos pensam naquilo que eles comem no prato.
His radical methods might frighten many ecologists, but his results are convincing.
O planeta cresce. Eu não tenho dúvida, ele cresce.
Mas o que me falou, o pessoal de mistura de africano com indígena. E realmente funciona perfeitamente.
The course turned out to be the most interesting I've ever attended. The question asked by the participants seemed to never end. I learned, for example, about the dominant climbing fern, which seems to be a widely spread phenomena in degraded forests.
Por tradição, esses lugares, o agricultor só taca fogo.
The traditional slash and burn cultivation has been practiced on my piece of land as well, and some neighbors still do. The whole vegetation is cut down and then burned. The ashes fertilize the soil for 1 to 2 years. Then the plot is abandoned for some years to be covered again by vegetation. Typical crops are manioc, maize and sugarcane. The consequences, though, are severe.
Queimando, você destrói grandes partes do banco de sementes, você impede a sucessão, ou seja, a sucessão vai regredir, ela vai da floresta, vai regredir para o que a gente chama de cerrado, depois do cerrado ralo, vai para o campo sujo, vai para o campo limpo, depois vai para o deserto.
To understand this, we have to remember some ecological facts. The basis of plant growth literally is the soil. In it we find the nutrients the plant needs for her growth. One of the 3 macronutrients is, beside phosphor and sulfur, nitrogen. It is mainly stored in the humus, which is built by decomposing plant material. Humus works as a sponge. It stores nutrients and water and is the habitat of microorganisms who contribute to the plant growth. Ironically, many of these microorganisms decompose the humus itself and offer it partly to the plants. In periods of cold, though, they are inactive so that the humus layer grows. The tropics don't know longer periods of cold weather. Constantly, the conditions for microorganisms are ideal, so that the decomposing of organic material happens quickly and normally totally. Meanwhile, is the incidence of light big enough for a big number of plants to develop on several vegetation layers. All these plants compete for the decomposed organic material, which they absorb immediately with the help of mycorrhiza fungi, which live in symbiosis connected to the plant's roots. As a result, we find hardly any humus in a tropical soil, despite a possible huge mass of plants on it. Someone had called it a desert covered with forest. Additionally, does not even the available soil contain nutrients, because they had been washed out by the rain. The vegetation doesn't therefore root in, but on the ground. This is impressively seen on the buttress roots of certain trees. The habit of the farmers to burn down the vegetation, especially in larger scales, has severe consequences. The soil is not porous and cannot retain the ashes. Frequent rains furthermore wash it out quickly. The seed bank on the ground is greatly destroyed. The remaining ones find harsh conditions to grow. The direct exposure to the sun is deadly to the microorganisms of the soil. The damage to the forests is immense.
Então, quando você degrada ecossistema, aí vem primeiro espécies de lugares menos privilegiados, enquanto disponibilidade de nutrientes e capacidade de retenção de água.
Nature is strong, though. It is used to damages which naturally occur. It has its mechanisms of wound repairing, and this is called succession. Plant groups of different adaptations follow each other and elevate, literally, the forest. The first to conquer the empty space are the pioneer plants. They deal with the few nutrients available and prepare for the next group to come. Over several steps, nature finds to its most efficient degree the primary forest. In cases though of massive destruction of the soil, the succession cannot advance and gets stuck on a certain level. The original forest with its massive trees and rich flora and fauna is not able to be established again. On my piece of land we find exactly this situation. That's why there are many thin, thick trees and lots of pioneer climbing plants.
Es ist wirklich nicht viel wert. Viel Gebüsch, kleine junge Pflanzen.
Esse aqui, início do sistema de acumulação e ainda em crises por falta, aparentemente, de espécies que têm capacidade de fazer isso. Essas aqui as melastomatáceas que temos, é isso que você vê, crescem e depois vão para um certo ponto, mas por minha interpretação, ou por não ter o quem sucede eles na sucessão, seja por não poder criar aqueles previstos a eles criarem na sucessão, que seriam boragináceas, lauráceas, mirtáceas, etc., eles se retiram. Não chegam a ser adultos. Aqui atrás tem uma, por exemplo, que está pequena ainda e já se está retirando. Bem típico, porque é uma calamidade que mostra que o ecossistema aqui não tem recurso. Provado, tanto matrizes são presentes, dispersores são presentes. Então, eles não têm meio para lidar com o grau de degradação. 30 anos de tentativa do sistema para se regenerar, mas a sucessão não vai para frente. É sempre patinando, é falta de resiliência. E nós temos muitos lugares nessa Mata Atlântica que estão nesse ponto.
Of course, there is not only nature stuck. Agriculture on such soils is not possible without an effort.
Viel Schweiß allerdings, viel Schweiß.
After the course, I went home to Switzerland with a new clarity of the state my own forest was in. Now I knew why my forest didn't look like the tropical forest in the books. But I also knew now what to do to regenerate it. A lot of work, though, was waiting for me.
Mostrar que é uma floresta não é uma coisa para se tocar, senão é um desafio e quando é crise, então vamos consertar.
The same forest I had seen 1 year ago as worth protecting and in need of rest, I saw now as sick and in need of help. Of course, I also found out that whatever I planted needed light. For this, I had to open up space. At this point, I had to change my approach to this place and to the forest totally.
Animais de clareira, vamos criar clareira, vamos plantar floresta para depois poder fazer outra clareira. Seja, é vida, é fluxo e não é uma coisa.
Ernst had taught me that we could live in symbiosis with nature and so even upgrade it. A sick forest, though, could not do me any favor. So my new motto became clear and replant.
Você pode usar um pouco do capital que foi acumulado de madeira, que eu vou deixar, uma grande parte da madeira eu vou deixar no lugar. Você está vendo aqui, foi cortada, posto no chão. Isso não é para queimar, senão é para formar solo. A transformação de matéria orgânica oriunda de madeira resulta na frutificação. Então, eu querendo frutos de cacau, de banana, outra coisa, podo. Se faço poda e derrubo árvores que têm cumprido sua missão.
The main rule is don't burn the plants you cut down. But this causes a lot of work as all the plants have to be cut into pieces, and in my case, put into terraces along the slope. The motor saw and the machete, both symbols of destructions, became my best friends on my way to build up a new forest.
Seja, é vida, é fluxo e não é uma coisa.
Am Ernst Götsch seine Idee, Terrasse. Also baue ich mein kleines Machu Picchu. Alles mit Holzstämmen, einer schwerer als der andere. Zusammengestückelt. Ich weiss nicht, sieht man es im Film. Eine Terrasse und die andere. Gefüllt mit Ästen, alles klein geschnitten. Wird jetzt dann bepflanzt. It's a nice butterfly.
To make use of the natural growth dynamics, we should copy the succession. After clearing the forest, we plant all the different succession groups in the same plot. Right from the start, if possible.
Quando você quer plantar uma coisa, não pensa, ou seja, não planta aquilo. Seria a mesma coisa querendo fazer uma criança e pensar no dedo dela, ou no nariz, ou no estômago dela. Isso faz parte, tudo parte de um macro-organismo. E assim, quando você planta, todas as plantas criam em conjunto um macro-organismo.
Every crop, every plant we want belongs to a certain succession group and will allow us to harvest it whenever it has reached maturity.
Mas é árvore.
É mato, é pé de mato.
Mas não é fruta.
Acho que não, sabe fruto tipo aqui. Isso aí é flor.
Esse é flor?
É flor.
Mas esse é árvore, hein?
É árvore grande, mas é flor.
Ah, também?
É.
Ah, tá.
Eu sei, eu conheço ela, não sei o nome dessa aí não. Isso aqui são tudo ato, né? Você viu quando é?
Esse é cacau, hein?
Cacau, né?
Tudo.
Cacau.
Esse aqui, é.
Esse aqui, café?
É.
Ah, é.
Jetzt kommen alle Leguminosen und sonstige Düngepflanzen als Mischung.
A primeira parte da placenta é formada pelo feijão. Eles primeiro crescem.
Schau, da habe ich eine Bohnenmischung.
The annual crops like maize and beans are followed by the perennial ones like cacao, oranges or bananas, and these will make place to the precious woods who need dozens of years to mature.
Das kommt jetzt aufs Feld. Ah, Graviola. So, buon trabalho. Dessert. Und nachdem jetzt alles gesteckt ist, kommt Mulch über alles, so dass die Sämli in einem geschützten Ambiente können wachsen. So, jetzt wird gepflanzt. Wenn ich all meine Flugmeilen denke, einmal auf London ist etwa 1,5 Bäume, so über den Atlantik liegt 10 Bäume, ja, da habe ich einiges zu tun. Der süße Dessert, wenn man mit viel Schweiß Erde parat gemacht hat, ist Setzen. Das ist jetzt eine Kaffeepflanze.
Like this, the area is used in its optimum. The plant groups help each other to grow, and the soil fertility grows with the organic material that is left on the ground.
So muss für alle lange.
My first attempt though meant learning through trial and error.
Die erste Tröpfchenbewässerung von Brasilien. So etwas hat da noch
The
niemand
poor
gesehen.
soil and the changing climatic conditions, as well as my still poor knowledge of the local fauna, make the progress slower than I had hoped. Again and again, I have to adapt, find new solutions.
Ein einfacher Schlauch mit dem Messer Löcher reingestochen. Das sind Kaffeepflänzchen, die ich gestern gesetzt habe. An den heutigen Tag haben den Haufen schon mal nicht überlebt, weil es einfach sonnig war und nicht geregnet hat, wie ich eigentlich im Sinn hatte.
The vision though is clear, and despite just small steps, progress is seen. Patience, patience.
Ananas, Bohnen, Maniok, Kakao, dasselbe, Kaffee und sehr schön, Banane, baby.
Para mostrar que o subproduto de produção de alimentos não é terra degradada, senão madeira e terra boa.
My motivation was on its height when an incident shook my belief in the method to the ground.
Okay, jetzt können wir schauen. Experiment. Wieder mal mit dutzenden Blick. Jetzt haben wir eine Schlange gebissen in die Hand. Zwei Zähne. Die Hand schwillt langsam an, sie tut immer mehr weh. Keine Ahnung, was ich machen soll. Jetzt laufen wir mal zum Medikalpost in Quilombo. Und hoffe, dass ich nicht sterbe, wer weiß. Vielleicht ist das letzte Video aus der Rehe. Immerhin habe ich es versucht. Jetzt die Tante drehen. Ich hoffe, es geht still. Es geht still.
The snake bite of the Sharakusu could have caused severe health problems. I got very angry and scared. I even thought about burning down the area around the house to make snakes visible or even kill them. But what has a rider to do, thrown down by his horse? Mount it again, immediately. And so I did.
Seja. E não é uma coisa.
To live with great courage.
Los Vollgas geben.
Unbedingt aufreiben. So Antischale. Ja genau, so auf irgendein so Reitpapier oder so. Aha.
We just flushed her out with some water. Hey, come on, move.
And oh